Hey guys, this is Sanjay from FTC Team 7477, Super 7. Today, I'm going to be talking about file handling in Java. So, if you don't know what files are where programs store and retrieve data. To use this in Java, Java provides a robust API for working with files, allowing you to read, write, and manipulate data stored in text or binary formats. So in this video, we'll talk about how to create, read, write, and delete files step by step in Java. So first, let's talk about why would you even use file handling. So let's imagine this, a program that needs to save user settings, log application activity, or process large datasets. File handling allows programs to interact with the file system, enabling persistence of data beyond a single program execution. First, let's start with creating and writing to a file, right? So I'll just write the code and then I'll explain it. So these are the things we import. Java, sorry, java.io dot asterisk, which means everything in java.io. You could individually do it, which is what I'm gonna do here. You could do java.io.file, import java.io.file writer, and import java.io, and import java.io.io exception. Next, let's start for a class. My file name will always be main, so I'll just make that because the class name has to match our file name. Next, we can get straight into our main method, so public static void main string and args. So now let's get into the actual filing stuff. So last video in the Java programming series, we talked about handling exceptions using the try catch block. This is exactly what we're going to do today. So first we create try, and then we can make a file object, file equals new file, and this is going to be our file. I'll just call it like example dot text. So if file dot create we can just, so if our file is created, right? So we can just print out file created with the name of our file. So for this we can just use file dot get name. Oh, sorry, this is wrong. So we would just have the created in here, and we could concatenate file.name onto the end of it. So next, let's do if this doesn't work, right? So else, if we can't create a file, that means it already exists. Sorry. So we can just print out file already exists. Right? So this is it. So we also have to initialize our file writer, right? So we can actually write to the file. So let's do that. File writer, let's just call it writer, equals new file writer, and we would use the same file that we already previously created, which is example.txt. Right? So now we can just add a semicolon. Now we can actually write something to our writer. So for this, since our name is write, right? So we can just do write. Actually, let's call it writer since it's file writer. So we can just do writer dot write, and then let's just have a message, hello. Let's just have hello as our message, right? So after we're done using our writer, we can just do writer dot close. So next, let's move on to our catch portion of our code. So for this, we can catch since we imported java.io.io exception, that's what we're going to be catching. So we can catch an IO exception. We can just call E, right? So for this, you can just print out if this happens, an error has occurred. And then we can also do, and we could also just print our stack trace of our exception to see like its status. So print, since we called our IO exception E, we can just do e.print stack trace. So this is our basic code for reading and writing for a file. For writing to a file, sorry, not reading. Now we'll talk about reading. So for this, I'll just start over with some code. Alright. So we can just use the same file for this test. Alright. First we can initialize our scanner to actually read it. So let's call scanner sc equals new scanner and file, right? Oh, for this we actually have to import java.util.scanner to be able to use it, right? So we've initialized our scanner. Next we can use this while loop. So while our reader has a possible next line to read, right? Sorry, not reader, scanner. So while our scanner has a next line to read, we can just create a string called data. So string data. And what data does is that it essentially parses the next line of our file. So we can just do sc.next line. And then after this, we can just print out our next line. And if we continue this throughout the whole file, it's essentially the same as just printing out the whole file itself. So we can just use this shortcut sout in IntelliJ to print sout data. So now after this we have to close our scanner to avoid possible memory leaks. So let's do scanner.close. So now let's move on to our catch part. So for this, we aren't going to use an IO exception. We're actually going to use a file.notfound exception. So let me change this in our imports. Alright. So now we can change this to file not found exception called E, right? Now we can just print out using this shortcut again, an error has occurred. And then after this, we can just print out our stack trace, which is essentially like our status of our exception. So e.print stack trace. Next, let's talk about deleting a file, right? For this, we actually don't need any of our try and catch blocks, so let's just delete that. So let's start by initializing our file, right? So we can make file equals new file, and we can use our same theoretical file example.txt. Oh, sorry, this has to be capitalized. So file equals new file of example.txt, right? Right, so we named our file. Now we can use some simple if statement logic. So if our file dot delete, so if this condition is true, so if this condition is true, then we can print out deleted the file. And then you can just concatenate our file name onto it, right? So we can just do concatenate file.getName onto our error message. So now we can do else. We can just print out failed to delete the file, because if we haven't deleted it, we failed to delete it, right? So this is essentially the basis of deleting files in Java. So here are a few important points to remember about file handling in Java. So in Java you always have to handle potential exceptions like IO exception or file not found exception using try catch blocks. So if you don't do that, your file reading and writing is probably not going to work. So after you use them, remember to close resources like FileWriter or Scanner to avoid possible memory leaks. Use absolute file paths for clarity, but relative paths for portability. And be cautious about overwriting existing files. You always have to confirm before proceeding. Thank you guys for watching a super exciting programming tutorial about file handling. See you in the next one.